Hello, guys. Welcome. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. My name is Erica Elizabeth Hannah, and today we are going to talk about how I fully reprogrammed my mind and finally stopped self-sabotaging. There's a lot of videos on the internet about reprogramming your mind, your thoughts create your reality, X, Y, and Z. But nobody really gives you a step-by-step guide on really how to change your mindset besides like affirmations and visualizations, which was a big part of my shift. But I also feel so called to talk about the actual steps I took to make the shift inside, to have an inward revolution, to see my outward life match my inside. So anyways, okay, so where do I even begin? Because it's been one hell of a journey. I think 2022 really showed me how deeply programmed I actually was. I was living in so much fear all my life, and in 2022 it really showed me how programmed I was, and to the point where I self-sabotaged myself. And I fully didn't have like a place to live because I was scared to be homeless and like all this stuff. Now we're in my apartment, like it's all good. I'm fully tapped into my abundance, and I definitely think I'm not even fully there actually, let me correct myself. I'm just getting started on this process. So I want to talk about like what I did that helped me reprogram my mind. Number one is being so present with yourself that no thought that doesn't match the frequency that you want to live by goes out of sight. Number one is presence, being so grounded in your body and being so present with yourself. And that also ties into just really knowing yourself, spending time alone to get to know your own mind and get to know your own triggers and to get to know your own limiting beliefs and all that stuff. I truly believe the moment I really started being present with myself and stopped disassociating. Have you ever been in like a disassociating episode and you begin to be present with yourself while you're disassociating? You can really catch yourself in the tunnel of invasive thoughts you go into. Like literally it's like I don't know about you guys, but that's what would happen to me. Like I start disassociating, I get lost in my thoughts, and the thoughts are usually self-sabotaging thoughts because that's really all that I knew. I only knew thoughts that really didn't serve me. And that's why being so present in your body is so important, because when you're present in your body, you catch yourself so much faster than when you're constantly detached from your body. So if you're present in your body, grounded in your body, you're able to catch yourself a lot faster when you're going down the spiral of negative self-sabotaging thoughts. So number one is definitely presence. I started to begin by being really present with myself. And how did I do that? I started spending a lot more time in nature. I was guided to be outside doing absolutely nothing, not bring my phone, sit there, not a book, not anything, just literally sit there and stare at the clouds, listen to the wind, listen to the birds chirp, and be so present and so embodied in my own body that I had no other choice but to face my own self when I started to go down the spiral of negative self-sabotage. Guys, I'm really trying to stop talking with my hands. It's such a Hispanic thing. I can't help it. Like, I am such a talker with my hands. Whatever. Catching yourself as fast as you can, and that ties into being present, because when you start catching yourself in the act of having these negative thoughts, you're able to course correct fast and easy. I mean, maybe not easy in the beginning, but as fast as possible, because you are now present and grounded in your body and you're familiar with your own energy and your own mind, right? So, we get to this point where we know ourselves so much, if we're hanging out with other people and we get a thought transfer from our mind and maybe somebody's judging us, we know that that thought isn't our own, because we don't judge our looks. Maybe we're judging our own self in something else, but you know what I mean? Like, I've never ever, like, a great example of this, I talked about it in one of my videos, but when I hired somebody to help me sew, they had a thought that they thought that I worship money because I had like crystals and like a golden $100 bill in front of my sewing machine. But it's just because I'm trying to reprogram myself to, you know, believe, well, I was trying to reprogram myself to believe that I was worthy of making money doing what I loved. Now I believe it. But at that time I was in the process of it, and they had a thought that was like, wow, this girl worships money. And the thought transferred into my mind, but I knew my own mind so much that that wasn't one of my self-sabotaging thoughts. I've never thought about myself as worshiping money, because I know that, you know, I love money and I love having money and I love being abundant and connected to my abundance, but I know that that isn't the root of my happiness. The root of my happiness is my relationships and sharing love and sharing knowledge and listening to people's stories and being there for humans and dressing cute. That's really the root of my happiness. So whatever. So when you know your own mind and you know your own self-sabotaging thoughts, you're able to course correct so much faster. And you're also able to be like, that's actually not my thought, but so I send it back to the sender. If you want to believe that about me, that's completely fine. I'm not here to correct you and what you think about me. I'm here to correct myself and what I think about myself. So that's one of the bigger things that I would constantly do. And then another huge thing, I know I like slightly made fun of it in the beginning of this video, and it's not to make fun of it, it's such a process. Like, people are like, oh, just affirm, just visualize, just keep on doing it, which it works. The more you do it, the more it works, absolutely. But I think people don't even touch on the ounce of the commitment and the resilience you need to continue on that path. Because, you know, really in the beginning, when you're affirming and you're visualizing, you're trusting fully in the unknown. You're trusting fully in the imagination of your own mind and the words of your own words, whatever. You're trusting in your own words, period. And in the beginning, you feel so like a fraud, because you've only known, oh yeah, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or this is gonna take me forever, or how the F is this gonna be possible? Like, you know, so you feel like a fraud. But the more you're consistent with your affirmations and being so present in your body, that when you do have a negative self-sabotaging limiting belief, you're able to affirm right there and then, and like maybe a couple times, in order for your body to feel at peace, it starts to work. Then with visualization, in the beginning and the end of my day, even throughout my day, if I'm maybe getting a little anxious, or I feel like, you know, a little fearful, I'll sit there and I'll visualize the outcome that I want. Living in your imagination is a very real thing. This is how I got into my apartment, to be honest, because I had a bad credit score. On paper, it didn't look so good. It didn't look in my own, it didn't look like it was in my favor. But I kept on visualizing and I kept on affirming and I kept on, and then also I kept on just being like, you know what, I give this to God. If God wants me to have my own place, and God wants me here, and God thinks that this is the best place for me to be right now, God will put me there. But if God thinks I'm not ready yet, then I don't stress. It's okay. This will happen when it's meant to happen. But I kept on affirming at the same time and visualizing in the morning, in the night, that I was moving and I was getting my own apartment. So it worked. Another thing is just really being so patient and loving to yourself. I think the biggest lesson for me, as I've embodied this version of me that feels so comfortable living in her own body and in her own fucking mind, because being in my own mind a couple years ago was hell. I'm not gonna even lie. It's taught me to have a lot of grace. And have a lot of grace to myself and just really love myself, even if I created a reality that I didn't really want to experience it. I knew I was experiencing it for a reason. Sometimes before your biggest breakthroughs and before the time of your life that's the most exciting and hardest time. I remember before I moved out, I had like 3 mental breakdowns where I was like, God, I can't take this anymore. Like, I have no more will to keep on moving forward. I released this to you, and I prayed and I cried and like I screamed, and I really was like, I've never had a mental breakdown like that before. It was like a mental and emotional breakdown. And you know, a couple weeks later, I moved. Like sometimes you just have so much pent up emotional baggage in your body that you need to let it go. Like lately I've been really crying about, I don't want to say being alone because I enjoy being alone, but I feel like I've been missing somebody in my life, like my divine counterpart. Like I know I'm meant to be in such a beautiful partnership in my life. I know that part of my journey is to serve the masculine energy. You know, part of my journey is to be served by the masculine energy. So right now, everything is amazing and beautiful, but I do feel like something's missing, and I've been crying so much lately and be like, God, I'm ready for love again. I'm so ready for love. And I know I'm going through this hard time with that because they're probably about to enter my life, you know? So also guys, I don't have Botox. I know this is so random. I don't have Botox, but literally I'm the snatchiest I've ever been in my life, and I'm not gonna do Botox probably for a long time, like maybe ever. But I've been doing a lot of facial massages and like lymphatic drainage on my chest and my neck and my face, and I can fully see a difference. Yeah, because I want to age gracefully. Anyways, so I don't even remember what was being graceful. Being so much in your grace that even when you have those bad days and those times where you actually believe again in your limiting beliefs and your self-sabotaging beliefs, being so much in your grace that you forgive yourself and you know that you've always overcome it. You've overcome it once. You will continue to overcome it. It's going to get easier and easier and easier as you continue down this path. And yeah. And, you know, giving yourself grace also allows you to give grace to others. This has been the most heart-opening time of my life. And of course I backtrack sometimes. You know, when you start to get your wishes fulfilled, sometimes you get back to that version of you that's maybe not as grateful or like a little salty, a little bit judgy. And you know, I've been catching myself a lot lately. I'm like, no, this is an old version of Erica. I don't need to judge others or criticize, or you know, and it comes from such a place of, you know, judging myself and criticizing myself. And you know, when you start to receive the things that your new version of yourself has created, I think there's always going to be a time where your old self tries to come back and wants to maybe, you know, I don't want to say test, because I don't really necessarily believe in that anymore, but it's already so engraved in you that familiar experiences will trigger your fearful and your old self to come back online. And I think it's such a time to show how resilient you are when that does happen, because if you've done enough inner work, you know that this is an inward job. So you are now so present with yourself. You have experience changing your reality through your inward revolution, through affirmations, through visualization, through grace, and being in touch with your own self. Then now when your old self comes back online, which it will, you're able to look at that person and have empathy and be in your graceful self towards that older version of you. And then therefore being in your graceful energy towards other people too, and never taking anything personal. You know what I also stopped doing during this time? I remember specifically getting this guidance from Spirit, and they were like, no matter what you're going through, and mind you, this was the hardest time of my life so far, and I've gone through a lot of fucking trauma, but it was the hardest time of my life because I created it and I fully knew how I created it. So it was like so to fucking rip my hair off, but I didn't. I mastered my emotional intelligence through this time. And you can too. And you are, actually. But during that time, the universe was telling me, don't talk about your problems. Don't talk about what you're going through to anybody. To anybody. And you know how hard that was? To keep everything to myself during the hardest time of my life. But I understand why they told me that. Because when you're talking about your problems to other people, they believe helping you is giving you advice. And usually their advice is through their own lens of their own limited self. You know, no matter what that actually is. And I knew that during that time, I had to be so inside and present in my own mind, in my own heart, in my own body, that if I talked about what was going on to the people around me, my family, because that's really who I had around me at that time, they would only give me advice to their perception. And no offense to them at all. I mean, I'm so grateful for my family and everybody in it, but nobody in my family really has a life that I want to live like. You know, of course they have certain things. My mom's married and like whatever, and of course I want to get married, but that's beyond the point. Like, I wanted to be completely free from all limitations and completely show myself the life that I could give to myself. And if nobody around me had the kind of life that I wanted to live, what good was I doing to my own self by talking about my problems and then them giving me unsolicited advice through their own limited self? It would have just made me more confused. It would have maybe led me into a different timeline where maybe I did quit and I gave up and I went down the route of, you know what, this is safe. That's what I did to fully change my mind. And of course, there's still some traces of my old self, like I said. And, you know, when I am faced with her, I give her the biggest hug ever because she needed that. She needed the love that I didn't know how to give her, that I just constantly neglected her through fear of the unknown and fear of not understanding this reality. And now that I understand it as much as I can at this now moment, as I continue growing, I think I will continue to understand it more and more and more, which is very exciting. I'm able to give her that love and that grace that she so deserved at that time. And, you know, I'm so grateful for that time because it's led me here and it's led me to the woman that I am today. And I am just so honored to be me. And, you know, that's definitely the goal of this channel, is for everybody who is watching to say that. You know, it's such an honor to be you. It's such an honor to embody the frequency of you. There's nobody like you. And the more we tap in to our own inner world and change from the inside out, the more we will see the reflection from the outside world and the longevity of it, you know? And the more in touch we are to past versions of ourselves, so when they do come up, we're able to show it love, show them love. And yeah, so I hope this video helped you. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about today, but I definitely felt called to talk about something and just connect with everybody again on here. It gives me so much joy just chatting and just knowing that I'm helping at least one person and being of service in that way. I'm a fashion designer. I have a clothing brand and I'm so much more than that. and I've always have been. You know, I loved acting, and I loved, you know, performing, and I loved helping people, and anything with self-help I really loved. And then I was led to spirituality, and you know, just I'm an energy worker. You know, however that wants to show up in a given day. Maybe today I want to talk, and tomorrow I want to make a dress, and the next day I want to make a short film. You know, no matter what, I'm working with energy, no matter what the outlet is or will look like. And we're so unlimited, and we are so multidimensional. So yeah, I don't even know why I talked about that, but whatever. I love you. I hope this video helped you. And I shall see you guys here again very soon. Bye. My tongue is green because I had matcha.